Hello, everyone. So, today I'm going to be starting one of my first videos for my YouTube channel. I've been wanting to start one for a while, but I wasn't quite sure what exactly I wanted to do or talk about, because I'm pretty laid back person. I really don't do much. Into the makeup a little bit, but not really. I do hair. I'm a licensed cosmetologist. Started in Dallas, but now I'm in Atlanta. But yeah, so I wasn't quite sure, and I'm just like, I read a lot, and I do my studies and stuff, so why not share it with the world? So, these first couple videos will be, I'll be reading a book. And so, title of the book is called Karma is Negotiable. Okay. Destiny and the Divine Power of Love. And it's by Nikias Anas. Okay. And so before I get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is John Quill Smith. I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I've always been a creative child. Love dancing, singing, but I can't sing, but I can dance. I always like being outdoors. This, that. But I had my first encounter with, I guess you can call it my spiritual awakening in 2015. My best cousin, his name was Lizelle Andrews. He died, and it kind of took me through a very dark period. And so, that kind of moment was just like now that I look back, it was like a bittersweet moment because, I loved him, obviously. And I wish he was here today, clearly. But, sometimes things have to happen in order for us to, be able to see a bigger picture. And in my situation, I guess that's what needed to happen. Because that's why I say it's a bittersweet moment. Going through all that pain and distress and agony and just like, oh my God, I want to die. It kind of just, helped me to be able to have my eyes open to be able to see something greater that God probably, or ain't not probably, that he had been trying to show me, that I just was like not trying to see. But anyways, yeah, so the book is called Karma is Negotiable, Destiny and the Divine Power of Love. And I've already started reading it a little bit, but I'm just going to go back to the beginning so that way, we can get a clear understanding of everything. And so most of my videos I'll try to do maybe about 30 to 45-minute videos. I usually read every day. Some days I'll be so tired from work that I don't. So, might not have a video for those days, but I'll try to record as much as I can of the actual reading of the book so that way, when you watch the videos, it can be the whole book, So we're going to start off with the introduction, and it states, everyone experiences suffering. Obviously, death and physical pain are forms of suffering. Yet we also suffer from an incredible variety of emotional, mental, and spiritual afflictions. We suffer when we do not have what we want, and we suffer when we have what we want because we are afraid of losing it. I'll also be doing my own little, commenting during it. But that was very interesting to me because we do suffer when we want stuff, and then when we get it, we're so scared about losing it that we just don't know how to enjoy it, We suffer from change, both from the changes we do not want, which occur anyways, and the changes we do want that do not occur. For us, life is a constant fluctuation of uncertainty, and suffering is a common companion. Very much true. Much of what we human beings pursue in life is but an attempt to avoid or lessen our suffering. Ultimately, however, unless we deal directly with the very cause of suffering, it will never be overcome. This is because of a simple law of nature, cause and effect. Suffering occurs because of causes, that is, specific actions that create specific results. The fact is that suffering can be overcome, but not through materialism. Suffering can be overcome, but not through materialism. No matter how wealthy or famous a person may become, they still suffer. Often, suffering is more than those with less. So it's saying, like, just because you make all the money in the world does not mean that your suffering will be over. Sometimes you will suffer more than the man that is begging on the streets. And I've seen that so many times to be true. With less, they appreciate more. And with more, you appreciate less. To change the phenomena of suffering, one must work with very fundamental forces of nature. One must work with very fundamental forces of nature. These forces are not influenced at all by our beliefs, intentions, or hopes. They are forces in nature, and thus, to work with them, one must act. This book is about action, not theory or belief. To understand this book, you must put into action your daily life, living and working with the principles it presents in order to verify through your own experience the knowledge that is being communicated. Without a continual effort to experience these teachings in one's life, this knowledge will remain as nothing more than ephemeral phantoms in the intellect, which can render no service for the betterment of your soul. So that means that you have to continuously work at this every single day, because things that you hold in your intellect will pass away when this body passes away. But the things that you take in and you really digest it, into your everyday life, and you make it to where, you have it, that comes with you, that follows you, through multiple lives. Yet, for those who make moment-to-moment effort to consciously transform their experience of life, many new doors will open to them. They learn from experience that suffering can be exchanged for happiness and genuine contentment. Okay? So that was the introduction. And it's basically saying, that we can overcome suffering, but we have to consciously act in order to do that. You cannot just, read something and just believe it and it's going to be true. Like, no, it's true, but you have to experience it to make it your truth. Okay? Yeah, I'm so over this here. But anyways, a wise person is one who, having accurately analyzed all actions of body, speech, and mind, always acts for the benefit of self and others. Nagarjuna Precious Garland. Okay. So, the title of this chapter is Cause and Effect. The modern way of thinking assumes that everything that exists has a cause. This is the basic idea behind science, causality, or the relationship between cause and effect. Cause and effect is not a theory or belief, it is a law. As a law, it does not matter if you have heard of it, believe in it, or ignore it. Okay, it doesn't matter. Everything about you is subject to the law of cause and effect. Laws manage everything that exists, and there is no more fundamental law than cause and effect. Okay? Even gravity is a minor law in comparison with cause and effect. A few miles above the surface of the earth, the power of gravity begins to fade. Yet cause and effect has no such boundaries. It manages every existing thing on every level, from the subatomic to the universes. Okay? So it's gravity, that's basically an earthly possession, but the law of cause and effect is universal. It works on this planet, works on another planet, works in the universe, works in the galaxy. It has no boundaries, as stated. Everything that exists depends upon cause and effect. There are no exceptions to cause and effect, though there are many cases where we lack the ability to perceive particular cases. Nonetheless, the law of cause and effect is universal. According to all of our most ancient traditions, the universe arises and falls in cycles of birth and death. Just as we have days and nights and seasons, all existing objects pass through cycles. On the scale of the universe, there are cosmic days and nights, great periods of birth, existence, death, and repose. Throughout the birth and death of worlds, suns, and cosmic systems, cause and effect is a law that balances everything. In other words, existence happens because of cause and effect. Without this law of cause and effect, existence would not be possible. So that's just giving you um, a little insight onto how great, the law of cause and effect is. Most people, we just learn about it in school, and that's that. But this applies to everyday life, every form of life, you know, every galaxy, every universe. Yet the law of cause and effect is not fixed or rigid, like some of the predetermined story, fate, or destiny, because such a law can only be set in motion when the conditions allow. Okay? I'm going to read that again. Yet the law of cause and effect is not fixed or rigid, like some kind of predetermined story, fate, or destiny, because such a law can only be set in motion when the conditions allow. Okay? A simple example is in the striking of a match to create a flame. Without conductive conditions, the match will not light, such as underwater or if there is no oxygen. Likewise, on every level of existence, the conditions must be right for the law to be rendered active. Okay? In traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism, which have studied the subject in great depth, the law of cause and effect is known as karma. The actual meaning of karma is poorly understood in the West, very poorly understood in the West, where people commonly associate it with some kind of debt to the universe or God. The real meaning of the Sanskrit term karma is cause and effect, or action and consequence. Karma is derived from the root word karman, which means an act. Every act is a cause for specific results. Thus, karma is just this, action and its consequences. Understanding this, we can naturally see that actions that produce beneficial consequences are just as karmic as actions that produce harm. Understanding this, we can naturally see that actions that produce beneficial consequences are just as karmic as actions that produce harm. Nowadays, many people respond to this topic by leaping to its implications for the creations of the universe, or how it applies to natural catastrophes and other unique but interesting situations. While such subjects may be very compelling for debate or discussion, as they are currently beyond our ability to truly confirm or disapprove, they are merely theoretical. And a merely theoretical or scholarly point of view is not very useful in daily life. Not very useful. Having an opinion or theory about the origin of mankind or the beginning of the universe does not do much at all to help us with the problems that are afflicting us right now. Therefore, let us first understand karma personally in our own life, as this kind of knowledge can render great changes that we can experience for ourselves. Through action, we create results. Everything that we are now is a result of actions already taken. To be that which we aspire to be, we have to know what actions we need to take in order to produce the results we want. Moreover, we need to establish the conditions within which those actions, those causes, can bear fruit. Gonna read that again. To be that which we aspire to be, we have to know what actions we need to take in order to produce the results we want. Moreover, we need to establish the conditions within which those actions, those causes, can bear fruit. The human being has infinite potential, Yet to develop it, one must know how. Nothing in the universe arises by chance or by a predetermined fate. Everything arises due to causes and conditions. To become a fully developed human being, we must perform these actions that engender such results. To do that, we have to understand exactly how karma works and how to master it. Okay? To fully become a fully developed human being, we must perform the actions that engender such results. Meaning that we have to, like I stated in the beginning, we have to actively work and consciously work every day to implement these into our everyday lives. Okay? To do that, we have to understand exactly how karma works and how to master it. The first step then is to reflect on our own experience with the four fundamentals of cause and effect. So right now we are about to go into the four fundamentals of cause and effect. 1. The certainty of cause and effect. Much, if not all, suffering occurs because of ignorance about cause and effect. By ignorance, we do not mean a lack of book study or intellectual understanding, but to a lack of real knowledge. Real knowledge is cognizant knowledge. One only has to be burned one time to acquire genuine knowledge of the power of fire or heat. From then on, that knowledge cannot be ignored, meaning you have to experience it. Somebody can tell you a million times that that stove is hot. But being a child, if you have not touched that stove to see that it's hot, you're just gonna, okay, they said it's hot. You're still gonna touch it one day until you touch it and you see that it's hot, and you will not touch it again. I promise you. From then on, that knowledge cannot be ignored. Even if one has a strong desire whose fulfillment requires being burned, such as retrieving a cherished object from the raging fire, it is unlikely that one will be willing to be burned. And certainly, one will not take such pain for something unimportant. Meaning that after you experience it, no matter what it is that you see that you want, you're not going to subject yourself to that type of pain anymore, because it'll then register that, hey, that's not that important. Not important enough for me to harm myself like that. Okay? Unfortunately, we lack this kind of knowledge regarding almost everything in life. We may believe it is wrong to lie, and though we have experienced the pain of being lied to, we continue to lie to others and to ourselves because of ignorance. A lack of real knowledge, cognizant knowledge of the consequence of lying. A drunkard knows that alcohol is bad for him, but he continues to drink because he lacks cognizance, real knowledge of the consequences of his drinking. Even having lost everything important to him in life, his family, his career, social standing, he will continue to drink because his desire is greater than his knowledge. In other words, he has not yet realized the inevitable relationship between action and consequence. He has no cognizance of karma. And it's crazy, once you think about like how much in life that we are like this. Like everybody knows, like they say, drinking, drugs are detrimental to your health. They're not good for you. But the fact that we want to feel a certain type of way so bad that we're willing to ignore the facts and continue to subject ourselves to that type of hurt, And like they said, it's because we have no cognizant knowledge of the actual cause and effect that is occurring every time we do it. For every action, there is a result. No matter how small or insignificant an action may seem, it will have consequences, even if we are unaware of them. You think a thought. Nobody else can think it or hear it. So you feel like you just thought it, and that's it. But this world is vibration and energy. Everything that you think within is manifest without. Okay? Might not be right away, but you can guarantee the law of cause and effect is in effect. By actions, we mean not only what we say or do with our bodies, but also what we think and feel. Our internal actions can impact our external environment. I just stated that. Okay? The way we think and feel can be sensed by others and can change their attitude towards us. How many people have not been hired for a job because the employer could sense the negative thoughts or feelings of the applicant? Even a well qualified person will be rejected if they give off a bad atmosphere. An astute employer can sense a thief, a liar, or a person who cannot be trusted. There is no physical evidence for these impressions, but they are perceptible because of our psychological environment. The state of our psychology can be sensed by others, thus, what we think and feel has consequences. So, what I just said, you think people, can't see what you're thinking, and although they can't see exactly what you're thinking, you send off certain vibes. They can feel that. And like I said, there's no physical proof of it, but some things are just, understood by the mind. You can sense that. How many good women have sensed the terrible secret lusts of an otherwise decent man, thus he remains alone? He may never show his lust externally and only indulge in it in his mind, yet others can sense it. What we think and feel, though it is inside of us, has an external impact that we generally ignore. Thus, our actions, whether internal or external, have effects. Reflect on your own actions every day. Reflect on any action you intend to pursue. Be sure you have weighed the impact of every act, for once performed, it cannot be erased. So what that means is before you act or say anything, you have to be consciously aware of what you're about to do and what you're about to, say. So you take those couple seconds to think about it beforehand. Weigh out the options. If I say this, then it could, end up like this. Or if I do this, then this could happen. So that way when you put in perspective, the pros and cons, I guess, sometimes you'll find out that it's better off that you don't say anything. Sometimes silence is a virtue. Sometimes you'll find out that it's better off that you don't do anything. Sometimes, tough love is what it has to be. Okay? Be sure you have weighed the impact of every act. For once performed, it cannot be erased. In every area of life, it is essential to recognize the certainty of cause and effect. Even if we do not immediately see the consequences of an action, the consequences will inevitably arrive as soon as the conditions are conducive, unless a more powerful action overpowers their emergence. We will talk more about this later. Additionally, though we are not always able to perceive the relationship between cause and effect, it does not mean the relationship does not exist. However, it often happens that we do have the ability to see it, but we do not want to. Much of the time, we are unwilling to see the truth. We prefer to maintain our illusions. And that's so very true. Some people say, I wish I would have never known. Because now that you know better, you have to do better. So some people prefer to stay in their illusions. So that first fundamental of cause and effect is the certainty of cause and effect, meaning that it is there. Okay? Whether you can see it now or it comes up later, it is there, and there's nothing you can do about it. Fundamental number 2, effects are greater than the cause. Although most people think that an action produces an equal consequence, that is not true. A tiny seed grows into a plant many times larger, which produces more seeds and more plants. Thus, the original action, the seed, produces truly awesome results. Likewise, our actions develop consequences that are greater than the action. Okay? So, for every action, there's equal but opposite reaction. That Newton law. It only exists for certain physical things. Okay? Nothing to do with the spiritual. A very simple example is to imagine throwing a stone into a pond. Most people think of cause and effect as merely being the relationship between the throw and the splash of water. Yet, when analyzed, there is much more occurring. The energy required to throw a stone is rather small, yet the impact of the stone results in a distribution of energy that is far, far greater than the original expenditure of energy. The splash is but the result of the initial impact of the stone of water. But what about the waves created by the impact? On a still pond, the waves can extend for a very long distance, disturbing the entire pond, not just on the surface, but also towards the bottom, as well as any fish, plants, or other organisms who might be terrified or disturbed. Moreover, such an action is not limited to just the material consequences. The sound also travels a long distance and creates an impact in a wide area. Correspondingly, every action we perform has waves of impact that flow both outward and inward. Every action we perform also affects us inside, psychologically. Numerous psychological problems inside of us are caused by the cumulative results of negative actions we performed externally. Yet, because we have never learned to pay attention to our actions and their effects, we are deeply ignorant of the full power of our actions. The consequences are greater than the action. This is true for negative actions and positive ones. If we plant the seeds of nourishing fruit, we can feed many people for generations. Yet, if we plant the seeds of selfishness, anger, or lust, we can originate harm on a scale that we can scarcely imagine. Okay. How much greater the effects are than the originating action depends on the conditions surrounding the action. Okay. How much greater the effects are than the originating action depends upon the conditions surrounding the action. A word spoken in solitude does not have much effect, but the same word spoken at just the right moment in the right place can change the world. In every case, the power of an action is determined by the conditions that surround it. Thus, it is necessary to not only contemplate well the type of action we want to perform, but the precise conditions needed to facilitate it. For instance, many people attempt to educate their children by relentlessly stating the same instructions over and over, yet the child continues to ignore the advice. To truly influence a child in the right way, those words could be spoken at one time if one knows the precise moment to do so. Okay? And that was the fundamental number 2 of cause and effect. Effects are greater than the cause, stating that the effects are greater than the cause on any scale. Number 3, you cannot receive the consequence without committing its corresponding action. Actions produce corresponding consequences. It is obvious that on a physical level, in order to be nourished, one must eat. To live, you must breathe. To be clean, you must bathe. Similarly, to have spiritual insight, you must see for yourself. No one can do it for you. Everything in nature works according to laws. Our spiritual development is subject to laws also. Many people are deeply hypnotized by the desire to get something for nothing. Everyone wants to win the lottery or strike it rich without having to work for wealth. This is a foolish fantasy that originates enormous suffering. The fact is that nothing is free, and everyone receives exactly what they deserve according to the causes they originated in the past. And I'm not sure where your level of understanding is, but the past can mean the past from this life, or like your past lives. So if you haven't sown anything productive or did any type of work, you cannot expect for this life to just be as fruitful as you feel like you want it to be, because you haven't put that work in. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6, verse 7. Okay? In other words, whatever we have in life, we earned. Whatever we do not have, we have not earned. And that can be like a hard pill for some people to swallow. Because some people go their whole life, or, most of their life just working, 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 and they wonder why, they have nothing to show for it. And it's like, um, just because you've been physically working, like this world that we live in does not just work off of physical. It's an extension of the spiritual. So although you are physically working your body, it's like, what type of soul work have you been doing? What really have you been doing to work on yourself and to, like I say, fully digest these virtues, to actually, live them and not just understand them just to get something done. Because like I said, what you understand intellectually will pass away once you pass away. But what you understand with your heart will stay with you forever. Okay? If we want happiness, we have to produce the causes for happiness. If we want freedom, we have to produce the causes for freedom. That is, we originate our own future through our present actions. Okay? So that means, like, every day is a new day. Today is not too late, to start planting the seeds of the future that you want. Okay? It is not too late. It's never too late. Thus, it is wise to consider the consequences of each action we perform. What will be created by our anger? Certainly, anger cannot create peace. Anger can only create anger, pain, and resentment. Angry people spread their anger to everyone else in the environment and receive much more anger in return. Imagine an angry bus driver. We've all encountered one. Well, all of us might not have, but I know I have. Okay? The angry bus driver treats all the passengers poorly. Thus, everyone responds to the driver with irritation, anger, sarcasm, all of which naturally makes the bus driver more angry. It's like he's being mad at everybody, treating everybody crazy, and don't understand why everybody is like talking to him crazy and treating him crazy. But a cycle is put in motion, and it feeds itself daily, getting stronger. A person who lives like this has a life filled with bitterness and complaints, always directed at others, blaming the system or management. But it all originated from themselves. And that made me think about something, but I'm not even going to say it. But I'm pretty sure if some of you follow, blaming the system, for how things are. Sometimes the blame is really on ourselves. Many people live their entire lives this way, whether with perpetuated anger, envy, lust, or other harmful qualities. Thus, such a person can never have what they want: respect, peace, contentment, because they had never acted in a way that resulted in those consequences. You know it is true. If you smile at others, they smile back. That is very true. I am like a living testimony for that, because I love smiling at people. I will flash a smile at somebody. And 9 times out of 10, they flash a smile back. But then you do have some of those people who are just, not in the mood to smile, which is understandable. And they don't smile back. But majority of the time, a smile receives a smile. Okay. It is true. If you smile at others, they smile back. And this is karma in motion. Yet mere knowing it is true is not the same as living it. Which is where I feel like a lot of these religious beliefs go wrong at. Because they say something and you believe it to be true because it's said, but you haven't really fully experienced it or lived it. So you're just taking it to be true because someone else said it's true. But that's a whole different story. So it takes time for us. Sometimes we have to, instead of like believing that it's true, we can believe that it's true, but then you have to actively try to work to test it out to see if it's true. Like life is nothing but experiences. That's how we learn. We don't learn from people telling us something. because they could tell us this and then we could live our whole life like, okay, well, this never happened. Although they said that. And it's because, it never happened because you just took it. You believed it. Instead of, trying to make it true for yourself. We know many truths, but do not have cognizance of them. Cognizance is proven by our actions. If you want certain conditions in your life, you have to perform the actions that will create them. Okay? Suffering cannot be overcome through creating more suffering, yet that is what we attempt. Suffering can only be overcome by stopping the actions that create it. Okay? So sometimes people like to play tit for tat. Somebody did this to you, so you feel like you want to do that to them. And it's just like the cycle will never end. You will constantly just be going in a circle. You hurt them. And they feel like they want to hurt you. And you feel like you want to hurt them. And they want to hurt you. And it's going to always, go back and forth until somebody, what I like to say is the bigger person, and you just, don't do anything back. Sooner or later, that person's going to get tired of being the only petty person. And they're going to grow up, And so we're on the fourth fundamental law of cause and effect, and we are going to stop here for the day. Once an action is performed, the consequence cannot be erased. So the number 3 was you cannot receive the consequence without committing its corresponding action. Okay? Which means we would not be in the current state that we are had we not did the things that we did. And like I say, sometimes it is not just from this life. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So with that, energy does not die. So what do you think happens when you die? If you haven't achieved what you came here to achieve, you come back, But once an action is performed, the consequence cannot be erased. Many people like to believe that they can take back mistaken acts or have them forgiven, but it is undeniable law that whatever is done and cannot be painted over. Okay? A hurtful word will change your relationship forever. Similarly, a moment of sincere generosity can change your life forever. A child who encounters pornography will be forever changed. The images of lust will change the psychology of that child. A child who experiences violence will never be the same. No matter how peaceful and fruitful the rest of that child's life, the experience of violence can never be erased from the psyche, okay? That child would also always be able to be like, I remember that one time. And knowing how our mind works, we'll actually feel how we felt at that time that we experienced that. It's like we don't disconnect from that. Similarly, everything we do is permanent. The depth and influence of every action depends on many factors, but no action can be erased. Nature has a type of memory that is eternal. So do we, but we ignore it. Fortunately, any harmful action and its consequences can be overpowered. It cannot be erased, but it can be overpowered. As grave as our suffering and problems may be, karma is also the power that can transform them into happiness. A superior law always overcomes an inferior one, which means a superior law can always overcome an inferior law, one that is beneath. A stronger action overcomes a weaker one. This is the key to genuine happiness. Through understanding how to utilize karma, action, and consequence, all suffering can be overcome. Yes, all suffering can be overcome. Every enlightened being, no matter what name we use for them, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Moses, okay? Reach this state by means of this fact. Any circumstance which is a result of previous actions can be changed by performing superior actions. This is how we can understand the forbearance and incredible strength of all of our greatest spiritual examples: Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Milarepa, Moses, Joan of Arc, and others. Okay? Many people like to believe that Jesus was the only one. He was not. There are certain levels to this stuff, and Jesus was the highest, you know. But he came to show us the same thing that all the others came to show us, that the kingdom of heaven is within. You just have to go in, seek and you shall find. And then also with the seeking, you run across certain laws that you have to learn and implement into your everyday life. Okay? It's not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. Okay? But it is doable. Okay? You just have to be sincere with all of your actions, and you have to be consciously aware of your thoughts, your actions, just everything. Their power to overcome adversity and suffering was rooted in a profound understanding of cause and effect, knowing how to perform the right action at the right moment in the right circumstances. In the Bible, Jesus had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things. Sometimes he passed on them, or sometimes he didn't do them when others thought that he should. Like when Lazarus got sick, he actually waited until Lazarus was dead. And people didn't understand, like, why are you letting him die? Like, and Jesus just like, it's not my time to do what I'm supposed to do. Then when he died, then he was able to do what he was supposed to do. Everything has a time and a place. Sometimes you might want to say something to somebody, but it's not that right time to say it. You have to just hold your tongue until the right time comes up, and you'll know. This kind of accurate knowledge and its results are accessible to an awakened consciousness. By learning how to use our consciousness, we learn how to direct energy towards the circumstances we need. By discarding harmful actions and adopting beneficial ones, we can transform life. Okay? So we are going to stop there. And when we start back reading, we're going to pick up on the origin affects the outcome. Okay? And so I just would like to say that, just be conscious and aware of your actions. A lot of people are on this law of attraction, right now, which is big. And it's, one of the many laws that works by the universe. But like it says, you have to create the atmosphere for it. You can't just think you can attract something, like you sitting home all day, but you want to make $1 million by the end of the year. But every single day you wake up and watch TV. It's like you can think about it all you want, and what you think you attract, yes. But if you're not placing yourself on the grounds to actually put that in work, then it's not gonna show. And then you're gonna, see for others that the law of attraction is real and you believe it's real, but you haven't experienced it because you haven't did the work to make it real for yourself. That's what I was saying earlier. But just be conscious and aware of your thoughts and your actions. If you find yourself thinking things that you shouldn't be thinking, don't allow yourself to continue to think those things. You have to combat, those thoughts. When you want to do something and you don't, give yourself props for that, but understand, like, why you wanted to do it in the first place. But I hope y'all enjoyed that first part. Like I said, this was my first video, so I don't know. I just know that I want to share this with the world, even though most of the world is already, getting on this. But it's some of us that have been a little, that hasn't just joined the wave just yet. And I don't know. So you can leave comments or, whatever you want to do. Let me know what you thought about it. What could I do better? What can I not do? Yeah. So once again, the book is Karma is Negotiable Destiny and the Divine Power of Love. You can order this book from gnosticteachings.org. They have multiple spiritual books, and that is pretty much where I get all of my books from. I basically order more books than I read, but hopefully we'll get the read them together. And so I will also try to, upon finishing one book, let you know ahead of time the next book that we're in line for, so that way you can go ahead and purchase it if you would like to read along, follow along, take your notes, because like I said, you can hear these things all day, every day. But if you are not actively trying to live them out and take them into your heart and not just your intellect, it's basically you just, I don't want to say you're working for nothing, but you're basically working for nothing. Because when you intellectually understand something, the mind dies when the body dies. Okay, but the soul is what keeps going. So you want to understand things with your heart, always with your heart. Because when you intuitively understand with your heart, then the mind naturally gravitates towards that as well. And that's why a lot of times some people, as if you look back on your childhood, you'll be able to see that you really did have that divine connection. Like me, when I look back at my childhood, it's like certain things that I thought as a child that I never had any proof of or, knew was real. Now that I'm finally into my studies, now I'm just like, okay, wow. If I would have kept on that track, but life is a bunch of ifs. But yeah, just be consciously aware of your thoughts and your actions. Try to understand things with your heart. Show compassion and love people. Okay. Well, until next time, y'all be safe. Have a wonderful day. Tell your loved ones that you love them. Okay? Because tomorrow is not promised.